Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Bridge City News. Here are some of the top stories we have lined up for you today. After being accused by the U.S. of walking back his words, the PM doubles down on the speech he gave in Davos last week. Plus, lines of Alberta separatists form outside Calgary's Big Four Roadhouse Monday to make their voices heard about the province's independence. And it's International Holocaust Remembrance Day, commemorating the 81st anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Jeanette Roche.
Thanks so much for joining us. Prime Minister Mark Carney is doubling down on the speech he gave at the World Economic Forum in Switzerland. Carney grabbed global attention last week when he pointed out the need for middle powers to band together as great powers try to expand their influence through economic coercion, which was widely understood to single out how U.S. President Donald Trump has, quote, ruptured geopolitics. Trump and Carney spoke by phone on Monday with U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, telling reporters Carney walked back his Davos comments. Carney was asked about that this morning.
Be absolutely clear, and I said this to the president. I meant what I said in Davos. It was clear it was a broader set of issues, that Canada was the first country to understand the change in U.S. trade policy that he had initiated, and we're responding to that. We're responding positively by building partnerships abroad, we're responding positively by building at home, and we're prepared to respond positively by building that new relationship through CUSMA. He understood that, and it was a good conversation, as I say.
So you didn't walk back your comments?
The Prime Minister says he also explained to Trump Canada's deal with China and the country's broader strategy to diversify trade globally. According to Toronto Sun columnist Brian Lilley, the confusion about the call between Carney and Trump could have been cleared up with a simple readout from the Prime Minister's office.
You have a call with the American president, a substantial one, you put out a readout. And the reason you do that is so that both sides have their stance on what was talked about in the conversation. Carney has, we found out several times that he's talked to the Americans from the Americans. And so last night, I get a text from someone saying Scott Bessent was just on Hannity on Fox News and said that, Carney walked all this back. So I found the clip, and yes, he used the term aggressively walked back his comments at Davos. What's the truth? We don't know. We weren't on the call. I'll say this, though, is that Mark Carney has a habit of fawning over Donald Trump when he's talking to him, when he's in person with him, and then, dumping all over him when Trump is not there, but he's speaking to other world leaders or Canadian media, etc.
Catch my full interview with Brian Lilley coming up after business news. Lines of Albertans formed outside Calgary's Big Four Roadhouse Monday to make their voices heard about Alberta independence. The group Stay Free Alberta has been holding events across the province, encouraging people to sign a petition that it hopes will lead to a referendum. The question being asked is, do you agree that the province of Alberta should cease to be a part of Canada to become an independent state? A crowd estimated to be about 3,000 packed the hall to hear Alberta Prosperity Project CEO Mitch Sylvester reiterate many of Alberta's grievances with Ottawa, including equalization payments, gun bans, and Canada's immigration rate in the last decade. Some of the attendees explained why they came.
This is not about joining the States or leaving Canada. Do you see anybody picking up the province of Alberta and shipping it somewhere else? Like, come on. And it's not about joining the States. This is about us being able to use our resources and profit from them instead of stifling our resources, taking what money we have and giving it to everybody else. It's about keeping things in the province and making the province work.
You've got people who want to be, fully independent, a republic. You've got people who want to be a territory of the U.S. I personally think even if we became a republic, then the U.S. would probably end up capturing us in some sort of way, not in a hostile way, but I think they would we'd need to get access to markets and everything else. Okay, we won't have to pay state taxes because we're so wealthy because of our resources, and then now we'll have access to U.S. markets, access to U.S. coasts and everything else. So just in the end, I guess, wealthier.
Besides those who attended in person, about 1,000 people watched a live stream of the event on YouTube. The separation petition needs close to 178,000 signatures by May the 2nd to succeed. Today is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, a time to commemorate the 81 years since the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, Nazi Germany's largest death camp. Holocaust survivors and politicians commemorated on the moment by gathering at events held across Europe and North America to reflect on the murders of millions of Jews. Here in Canada, dignitaries gathered in an Ottawa snowstorm to remember.
Today we remember the consequences of ignorance, of hatred, and complicity. Today we acknowledge that looking away is not a passive act, but an act of betrayal. And from the MS St. Louis to the none is too many era, Canada too has our history of turning away. We must remember that history to ensure that we never repeat it.
Today's anti-Semitism, regretfully, is more top-down than bottom-up. It is spread through university faculties and other educational institutions which teach people to fear and hate Israel. It is spread through grants by our own government to so-called anti-racist groups and individuals who themselves spread anti-Semitic hatred and tropes across the country. We must ensure that this never happens again. We must stand up for the right of Jews to live safely, peacefully, and openly, with the Star of David on their chest, with the mezuzah on the door, with the kippah on their heads, proudly proclaiming their Judaism and celebrating who they are as both Canadians and Jews.
And while this day is being marked nationally and internationally, Holocaust Remembrance Day is also being observed locally. BCN's Heidi Echeverria spoke with a member of the Lethbridge Jewish community.
81 years have passed since that, January 27, 1945. For 4 years, the Holocaust systematically murdered millions of Jews. Today, more than 8 decades later, it still hurts.
Never in history has one group of people been systematically annihilated in a short period of time.
Between 11 and 17 million people were killed during the Holocaust. Of these, 6 million were Jews, including 1.5 million children, as well as elderly people and those with disabilities. Many others from various persecuted groups also lost their lives.
In Israel, we have a museum, and there is like a mountain of children's shoes that were salvaged from the concentration camps that belonged to children 10 years and under. The Remembrance Day is thinking about those deaths because they were Jewish.
This tragedy was driven by extreme anti-Semitism, radical ideology, and systematic hatred that aimed to destroy, above all, the Jewish community.
And we need to be thinking also about anti-Jewishness in Lethbridge. You would think that Lethbridge is a peaceful city and there wouldn't be much of that. But personally, in the last 15 years, I have been assaulted 3 different times, physically beaten, either in our parking lot or in front of our building. So it's the danger of anti-Semitism is even real here in a protected community like Lethbridge. We've even had a demonstration in front of our building. Every year our building is spray painted with anti-Jewish graffiti. Things like Jews need to go to hell, a lot of bad words. The government is doing some things. Right now, one of our men is working on a grant from the federal government and from the provincial government to put in lighting, security cameras, possibly even roll down shutters. The majority of the Jewish people in Lethbridge are also believers in Jesus. Most people understand what an MRI scan is. That machine was developed in Israel. Just that machine has saved so many people's lives. The cell phone was developed by a research team working for Motorola in Israel. The internet developed in Israel. We could go make a huge list of things of what the Jews have contributed to modern day society. Be thankful. Have a heart of gratitude for what God is doing through the Jewish people.
Heidi Chavarria, Bridge City News.
Wow, thank you, Heidi. That was very touching. Over in the Middle East, the end of another painful chapter in Israeli history as the final Israeli hostage returned from Gaza more than 2 years after the October 7th, 2023 attack by Hamas. We get more from Joe Fetterman with the Associated Press.
Their pictures appeared on public billboards and posters, and many of their names became household words. Tens of thousands of people joined weekly protests calling for the release and freedom of the hostages. And everyday people and Israeli leaders wore yellow pins and military-style dog tags as symbols of solidarity. But late Monday, Israel announced it had recovered the remains of the last hostage, a policeman who was killed in the fighting on October 7th. Israelis now say this is a sign of closure and it's time to move ahead. Many people on Tuesday removed those yellow pins and ribbons, and in a final symbolic act, thousands of people gathered in a Tel Aviv square to halt a clock that had ticked for 843 days, marking the hostages' time in captivity. This now clears the way for Israel and Hamas to move ahead with President Donald Trump's Gaza ceasefire plan. That next step is expected to be the reopening of Gaza's Rafah border crossing with Egypt.
In other news, this week is Red Tape Awareness Week, an annual event held by the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. The purpose is to highlight the downsides of red tape, such as wasted time, energy, and money. For the Government of Alberta's part, Minister of Service Alberta and Red Tape Reduction Dale Nelly issued the following statement on Red Tape Awareness Week. He says, quote, "We've eliminated nearly 220,000 bureaucratic burdens, saving Albertans and businesses over $3 billion. That's time and money back for families and resources businesses can reinvest in their operations and communities." This year's Red Tape Awareness Week lineup includes a report on how much time physicians spend on red tape, an award for the most burdensome red tape, as well as an award for the most impactful red tape reduction. Across the country today, it is Family Literacy Day. Since 1999, schools, libraries, literacy organizations, and other community groups have taken part in the initiative. Literacy experts say reading or doing a learning activity with children is crucial to a child's development and can help a parent improve their skills as well. Canadian author and illustrator Barbara Reid is the honorary chair for Family Literacy Day and says even drawing can help with literacy.
When I was growing up, I just drew all the time. I drew things that made me happy or sad. I copied drawings that I liked. If you like to write, read and read and read. The more you read, the more you're learning about writing. So just enjoy it. Whatever it is you like to read, comic books, novels, whatever. Just keep doing it and you'll get better. And do keep a journal, keep your drawings, and even put the date on them, and you'll see how much you're improving as you grow and learn more and more.
Sounds fun. You can learn more about free programs and resources at abclifeliteracy.ca. A man from Fort Macleod and a woman from Pincher Creek are facing charges following a drug investigation earlier this month. During a search, police seized quantities of cocaine, methamphetamine, oxycodone pills, 2 tablets of fentanyl, and other prescription medications, plus drug paraphernalia consistent with trafficking. RCMPs say 47-year-old Darcy Peterson of Fort Macleod and 51-year-old Shannon Calderwood of Pincher Creek face various drug possession and trafficking charges. Both accused have been released with conditions and are scheduled to be in Fort Macleod court on February the 11th. Well, everything is set for Community Conversations 2026 in this engagement event. The City of Lethbridge brings together more than 40 different projects and services. Residents are encouraged to attend and share their input on city projects to get involved and make a difference. The event will take place on Thursday, January 29th from 3 till 7 p.m. at the visitlethbridge.com arena. Sarah Peters, Senior Communications and Engagement Strategist for the City of Lethbridge, explains what some of the projects the event will feature.
So we certainly have a lot of noteworthy projects going on. Transportation planning projects always seem to draw in some crowds. We also have new this year will be an assessment and taxation notice enhancements. We're looking for active public feedback on that. For that project is basically looking at how people read and understand their assessment and tax notices and if there's any improvements the city can make. Additionally, we have projects featuring the wastewater treatment plant, which is getting upgrades, as well as we have a lot of partner organizations that join us, like Downtown BRZ, Lethbridge Sport Council, Excite Lethbridge, Allied Art Council, and a lot of different groups. It's a chance for the public to not have to attend multiple open houses. They get to see all the active projects and active engagement happening at a one-stop shop.
One of the things that we recognize is that infrastructure services often is not well known what the infrastructure services are because it's not they're not facilities that a lot of people explore. And we want our residents of all ages to see what we do in the city with our infrastructure services. So we built some interactive tours because it's not easy to go necessarily to all of these spaces. So we built interactive 360 tours that are also VR tours, and that's what we'll be showing at Community Conversations.
The event is family friendly and includes free public skating, hockey, and ringette, and attendees can enter to win prizes, including a Hurricanes prize package. Farming groups and the Union for Workers at Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada say cuts at federal agricultural centres will set the sector back by decades. The department has said it plans to close centres in Ontario, Quebec, and Alberta, as well as satellite research farms in Nova Scotia, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. The Agriculture Union says the centres slated for closure were responsible for breakthroughs in areas like sustainable beef production, crop sustainability, and food safety. Keith Curry, president of the Canadian Federation of Agriculture, says his organization will push Ottawa to not shut down vital programs. CIBC Capital Markets says Canada's economy is showing less of a K-shaped pattern in consumer spending than the U.S. The investment banking and wholesale banking arm says while that might appear to be good news, it could actually point to a larger issue. Senior economist Andrew Grantham says the U.S. economy is seeing high-income earners drive most of the growth in consumer spending compared with middle and lower-income earners. Meanwhile, in Canada, he says spending across all income groups has seen similar percentage increases over the past few years, suggesting that lower income households may be dipping into savings to support their spending. And now here's a look at today's markets.
The TSX is up 3 to 33,096. The Dow is down 408 to 49,003. The S&P 500 was up 28 to 6,978. And the Nasdaq was up 215 to 23,817. West Texas Intermediate Oil was up $1.90 to $62.53 U.S. per barrel. Natural gas was down 35 cents to $6.45 U.S. Gold was up $168.77 to $51.80 U.S. an ounce, and silver was up $8.14 to $112.05 U.S. an ounce. Feed wheat is at $7.48 per bushel. Barley is at $5.86, canola is at $14.66, and corn is at $7.24 per bushel. Live cattle February contract was down 42 cents to $235.60. Feeder cattle were up 15 cents to $366.85, and lean hogs February contract was up 75 cents to $89.05. The Canadian dollar was down slightly over the past 24 hours and currently sits at $73.60 U.S.
Recapping one of our top stories, despite what U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is saying, Prime Minister Mark Carney says he did not walk back his Davos comments yesterday when he spoke to U.S. President Trump by phone. Carney says he told Trump he meant what he said in his speech at the World Economic Forum, where he called on middle powers to band it together as bigger powers try to expand their influence through economic coercion. While Carney did not name the U.S. specifically, he said there has been a rupture in geopolitics. Huge numbers of Albertans are making their dissatisfaction known to Ottawa as they line up to sign a petition in favor of a referendum for the separation of the province from the rest of Canada. According to Brian Lilly, Toronto Sun columnist, this is serious. We'll talk more about this and other national issues coming up after the break. Also, when you see news happening in your community, be sure to send us an email at info@bridgecitynews.ca. You can also visit our website, bridgecitynews.ca, or our YouTube channel anytime to check out more of our stories and interviews. And finally, we ask that you please vote for us for the best TV station in the Best of the Best Lethbridge 2026 competition. Just go to mybestofthebest.ca and under the heading Entertainment and Electronics, just scroll all the way down until you see the category for Best TV Station. We are right there, number 3 on the list. You can vote daily from the same device or IP address up until January 31st, and we'd really appreciate your vote.